What's up, guys? Chuck Silver here. Find me on Twitter at ChuckSilverDFS. Uh, Part of our sponsorship with Underdog Fantasy, Occupy Fantasy. It's rolling solo today, so anyone in the chat, you have anything you want to talk about, please throw it in there. You guys are my co-hosts today. Gonna rip the Greyhound. It's the single entry. I think this is one of the best contests like of the whole summer. I hope they drop a lot more of these in a similar price point. Just $35 entry, 30K up top, small finals field, small week 16 and week 17 pools. So I think these are just the best contests, and everyone only gets one. So my goal today, get a top 6, maybe top 7 pick, and I don't know. I'm just going to try and get my guys if I can. I see one in the chat, Disbanded Brotherhood, period. Appreciate you. Good to see you. I was hoping that I would start the draft and it would just kick off, but another one. So Underdog has a pretty good contest dropping. They said tomorrow. Let me pull this up. It's called the Marathon, and so they got rid of the regular season scoring for Ball Mania, but they added in. They're adding this contest. Let me just make sure you guys can see this okay. So it's cumulative scoring weeks 1 through 17. So it's just regular season scoring, similar to drafters if you've drafted over there. And $15 entry, $2 million total prize pool, $300K to first. Min cash is twice the buy-in, which is great. Yeah, they said it's going to drop tomorrow, so pretty excited for this one. And then they also have another one that's called the Marathon. Then they have the Sprint. It's not going to let me. I'm not logged into Twitter on this browser. But the Sprint it's basically regular best ball, except the playoff weeks, it's all just one gigantic pool, and it's cumulative scoring for the playoffs. So weeks 15, 16, 17. So if you make the finals, you're in it for all 3 weeks. And it's a $50 entry, so I'm going to wait until they drop the little Sprint, I guess, to get in on that one. But looking forward to it. I mean, they're trying new things, innovating. Like the other sites drop their contests, and they're kind of just. I mean, I saw someone else post this, but they're stagnating, right? No one wants to enter them because there's not really incentive to enter them right now. Like a couple of them maybe have enter this many in May, you get a free ticket. So that's kind of all I did. And right now, I'm trying to save as many Best Ball Mania drafts as I can for later in the summer. I know I'm gonna rip a few here. A week on stream, and so that'll be like my early exposures. And then it's just last year my teams that did the best, like, so I had 8 finals teams last year, and I want to say 5 of them were drafted in the last 2 weeks before the season started, and then 2 of them were from pre-NFL draft in the big board superflex. And so, and I don't know how much of that has to do with like Puka Nakua and Kyron Williams coming up, because we were drafting them a ton on the Occupy channel if you're watching last season. So I don't think we're going to get another smash that actually works out like Puka and Kyron Williams, but we should get some more clarity on, I don't know, who's the backup running back here, or maybe someone gets hurt and someone shoots up the draft boards that we can target pretty heavily. And then, okay, so Underdog drafts, though, good Twitter page to follow for when they pretty much only post about new contests dropping. So we got 5. We need 5 more to start. If anyone's in the chat wants to rip their single entry, let's go for it. Hoping this starts within a few minutes. But so what I have been ripping on Underdog is, let's see if it's going to load, weekly winners. And so the main thing is that I can draft on my phone because I'm so reliant on the Spike Week tool to tell me the playoff correlations, because we know how important week 15 and particularly 16 and 17 are for Best Ball Mania and other contests with that structure. And so I need to be able to see very quickly what the correlations are. I think it's a pretty good edge. And so on my phone, I only draft weekly winners. I haven't dove into Eliminator yet. I'm not as interested as I am in weekly winners, although I do think that there's an edge in both of these contests because people are not drafting them. I just don't think they're adjusting enough for the structure of the contest compared to BBM, because everyone's on, elite wide receiver, 0 RB. But I think we want to get away from that in the Eliminator and weekly winners. And I think it benefits us to kind of just zag a little bit while the field is zigging. And so Eliminator, I'm sure we'll get a stream or two of the Eliminator in the summer, but weekly winners, I want to plan to stream on Saturday probably. I'm on here with Moose tomorrow in the early afternoon, if you're West Coast, and so we'll probably do a BBM tomorrow. See if Moose wants to rip one. But yeah, weekly winners. I mean, so first of all, there's 186,000 people lineups every week competing for first, and first is 20,000, and the payout structure I think is not great. Like one thing that I like to see is a good first place, and then 10th place is 10% of first. This is not that. 8th place is 10% of first, so it's not too far off. But the point is, like, if you don't get, I guess, a top 15 finish in this contest, it's really hard to be profitable. I mean, you really got to get top two because third place, 5,500, that's great. But you know, to be that close out of 186,000 people, and you know, the difference in $15,000 is probably going to be a catch or two. It's a lot of variance near the top, but I do think that there's some big edges. So we'll dive into that later on another stream. Just trying to kill time until the until this draft fills up. I guess we could look at my big board exposures and things that I like, things I don't like. So I am a little embarrassed to show this because I don't like these exposures. Some of the players I was on, it was only a couple months ago and already doesn't really make sense to me. But I don't know, maybe it's a good exercise to see how takes change. So Ty Chandler, he's still my highest owned player in post NFL drafts. So I'm okay with that. Jacoby Myers, I think, is probably the biggest wide receiver value past pick 100. Jaleel McLaughlin, I think he's the RB2, has a chance to like split the work with Javonte. So love him there. Lockett, not drafting as much. I'm targeting other players in that range, but still think he's a good value. Say Jones, I'm probably not going to draft much because I already have my bag loaded. It's not a bad landing spot in Arizona, but it's okay. And then, a lot of the usual guys that you've seen me draft on stream, Rashid, Amari Cooper, Brian Robinson, love all these guys. Kenneth Gainwell is just, these were 20-round drafts, and we didn't have that much information back then. And so it was harder for me to diversify my zero RB bag, I guess, because I'm going zero RB so often, and I find myself just clicking the same guys over and over again, which I'm okay with it right now because I'm not that many drafts in. But as we go on to the summer, I'm going to try to diversify it more. But I'm basically in on all of these players still. Zach Ertz, this is wild. Like, this is wild, right? 24% Zach Ertz in Washington. They drafted the rookie. I mean, this isn't good, but I don't think it's awful. There are paths to this working out, namely if he just stays healthy, just contribute points, and that's okay. And other guys like Kyron's ADP fell hard, and these were mostly drafted in the second round, so lost value there. Rashee Rice lost a lot of value because I was drafting him in the 30 to 40 range, maybe. And Miles Sanders not really drafting anymore, but most of these guys I guess I'm still in on, so it's not too bad. Still waiting for 4 people to join. It's like trying not to sweat the Mavericks and Wolves game is on right now if you're watching this on replay, and it's like I planned the stream so I wouldn't have to sweat it because I have a very large interest in Dallas winning and going to the finals, specifically in this game. Do not want a game 6. Have a pretty good the dance team that I think is probably going to be competing for top 10, assuming Dallas finishes it today. I thought that I had a free pod, but the guy in second, I didn't even notice he has Kyrie Irving. I'm up by 100 right now, but if they go to game 6, I'll be sweating. If this takes any more than like 4 more minutes, I'm probably just going to enter a BBM so that we can get this show on the road. But at least if I could show my dance team. Well, things aren't working right now. It's perfect time. If you haven't signed up for Underdog, then there's a first deposit bonus match. I believe it's running through the end of May, so you have until tomorrow. You should have until tomorrow. The code is Occupy2, number 2, when you're depositing, and they'll match your first deposit up to $250. And just if you're planning on playing best ball this summer, say you had a $250 bankroll, it's instantly doubled. It's like the easiest money in fantasy sports. And so go ahead and do that. All right. I don't want to wait too long to start the draft, so gotta love it. Nothing is loading now, so that's great. See if I can get it up on my other browser. Sorry guys, bear with me. Waiting for 7 people now. It's not looking like we're gonna get to rip the Greyhound on stream. Alright, well, if this starts instantly, we'll just rip a BBM. Sorry if you were looking for some single entry strategy. Still going to go for my guys, so should be alright. Network error, of course. Gotta love it. Everything loads perfectly until I'm on stream, and then it all goes to hell. But it's okay. We can make the best out of this. See if it entered me in the draft. I think it's just Underdog because even my my phone isn't really loading it, and I'm not on Wi-Fi right now. Luka has 20 points in the first quarter. Not bad. Minnesota's down by 12. Love to see it. All right, so that BBM entry did not go through. Let's try it one more time. Could not detect my location. All right, I'm going to try to enter it on my phone, and then we'll see if that goes through. All right, well, oh, now there's only 3 people in the Greyhound. Waiting for 3 in the Greyhound. I really wanted to rip this one on stream, but all right, well. Entered a BBM. It started instantly if you were trying to draft along with me. I apologize. Not sure I could really help that today. Underdog's being kind of weird, but we did not get a top 7 pick, so that's unfortunate. Got the 10 pick. It's not too bad. We're probably going to end up with, I mean, most of the time we're going to end up with A.J. Brown here if I get Puka or Brees Hall. Pretty excited about that. Cover boy of the stream was Justin Jefferson, and so I reset my rankings. This should be, oh no, they're still kind of weird, but I reset it up top. For a while I had CD Lamb first, but I'm not getting that many first picks, and I don't want to completely fade Christian McCaffrey. So I'm just taking CMC at first. If it turns out later in the summer I get more than my fair share of number 1 overall picks, I'll start mixing up with CD. Because of like every player in the first round, CD is the one that I want to be most over the field on. It's probably the hardest player to do that with other than CMC. And then Justin Jefferson, I actually love taking ahead of Jamar Chase, and I'm taking Amon-Ra ahead of Jamar as well. But Justin Jefferson, I think his ceiling is higher than Amon-Ra's, and I kind of think his floor is the same, if not higher as well. And he was the number 1 overall pick last year. He got hurt, and people are down on him. Rookie quarterback. I'm pretty high on J.J. McCarthy. He's one of my higher drafted quarterbacks, definitely my highest drafted rookie quarterback. And I'm in on Jordan Addison too. So, and their running backs. Ty Chandler, my highest guy. So, very in on Justin Jefferson for this season. I don't want to fade Jamar Chase, but I have a tough time clicking him over Jamar and Amon-Ra. I recognize that Joe Burrow was hurt, Jamar's been hurt, and Joe Burrow's very good at football. You know, he's definitely better than either. I mean, he's better than Jared Goff, and he's better than J.J. McCarthy. So that's something to consider. I haven't been really on T. Higgins at all, but I mean, this guy was going, in the 30s last year? Now he's going at pick 42. If we do think that Joe Burrow returns to form, which, you know, Jamar Chase is going 4th, so the public thinks Joe Burrow is going to be fine. T. Higgins actually might be a little bit undervalued. I'm typically clicking the other guys in this range before him, but I have started mixing him in a little bit in my other drafts. So let's see what we get here. Well, so we're going to get one of these 3 guys. Just whichever one's available, we'll go ahead and take. Don't really have a strong preference. feel like A.J. Brown still has the potential to finish as an overall wide receiver 1, even with Devontae Smith there. But I don't know. It's a little bit tougher to click on him because he was so bad last season, right? So, oh, this guy took Drake London 8th. Don't hate it. If you really want Drake London, gets you kind of a unique team. You have 2 second-rounders instead of a first-rounder in this kind of playoff format. I think it's fine. So I'm going to go with Puka Nacua here. And then a lot of times I'm getting Puka at the 10th pick. I end up with Marvin Harrison if these guys pass up on him. And I think that this is an overpay for Marvin Harrison, but I don't want to end up with none. And if I was going to draft him, like, why wouldn't I want him on my Puka Nacua teams for that Week 17 correlation? Pretty in on Jahmyr Gibbs, and so I'd be happy with either of these guys. It's just after, like, let's say these 2 guys were gone, you know, we're going to take Gibbs at 15 because that doesn't happen too often. It's kind of weird, though, because this Week 17 game, Rams and Cardinals, like, if Marvin Harrison turns it up towards the end of the season, like, that could be huge. And Jahmyr Gibbs, running back, but I'm going to go ahead and go with Jahmyr Gibbs because I have a couple combos of Puka and Marvin Harrison already. And something like, so I mentioned I've been drafting a lot of weekly winners. I've been drafting a lot of contests where it's regular season scoring. There's no playoffs of any kind. And I'm drafting more of these early running backs than I have been. And it's going to affect my, thoughts and strategies for BBM and the other typical best ball contests with regular playoff formats. They're a little bit undervalued. I think, like, specific ones, CMC, Bijan, Brees are all fine. Jahmyr Gibbs is fine. Not really in on these 2 guys. But Devin A-Chain, I mean, in the playoff format, it seems like his value is just going down a little bit. I think this was a little bit of a reach by him. Again, don't hate it because it's probably an uncommon combo. And then we've talked about how unexciting the second round is. We have Brandon Ayuk, Chris Olave, and Devontae Adams are the 3 guys I'm typically okay clicking. Then once we get to the end, I've been mixing it up with Nico Collins. Otherwise, I would just click Deebo Samuel every time. I still think Stephon Diggs is a value. Malik Neighbors, I think his price is a little bit too high, but he could still pay this off. Just 6 overall pick, second best receiver. And like I said, I think Marvin Harrison is overpriced. I think Malik Neighbors is overpriced, but I do like taking him to mix it up because, again, otherwise, like, I'm in on all of these receivers. I like Mike Evans at ADP. I like DJ Moore at ADP. After that, this is kind of weird, but I think we really just want to get pieces of all of these guys. Yeah, well, sorry, Timberwolves fans. It's not looking good for you guys. 35-19 at the end of the first quarter. You love to see it. Let's see what some of these other guys are doing. It's always interesting to see when a bunch of guys start with 2 receivers. Always curious how far they go. Because another thing I've been thinking about since drafting, like, weekly winners, and I think the YouTube channel was the Dog Pound. They had a pretty good 2-part series diving into the weekly winners data from last season, and it showed that 3 receivers through 5 was probably optimal. And that's a little bit different because 0 RB isn't as nearly effective over there as it is here. Like, you could build your team with more rookies, more 0 RB targets so that you maybe are giving yourself a better chance to take down weekly winners towards the end of the season. But I think it's really important to get some of these elite running backs, especially with how much of a value they seem like they are with how much the wide receivers are being pushed up. So yeah, it's funny because there aren't that many badges in this room, compared to most drafts we do. Like, half of these guys have badges. But it does look like it's going to be a pretty heavy wide receiver room. So I'd love to grab another receiver. And then if there's a value on a QB or tight end here, and then I can catch up on receivers here because there's a few guys that I really like in this range. Because one thing, it's like people, I don't think we're overreacting to the data from the last couple of BBMs, but it's still such a small sample size, especially when we're considering week 17. That's a sample size of 1 week. And just, I mean, like last season, I was just lucky enough that I had the players on my teams who went off in week 16 and 17. It's not going to happen every season. But that's another reason why we want to spread out our exposures. Like, I wasn't too overweight on, like, I was overweight on them, but I wasn't above 20% on most of the guys except for DJ Moore that were necessary in week 16 and 17. And so, again, just preaching structure over player takes, but definitely still have your player takes. I'm not sure how I feel about this with Derrick Henry going 30. Because in weekly winners, he's going at like 18, and one of them is incorrect. Like, if Derrick Henry is the 30th pick in BBM, I don't think he should be the 18th pick in weekly winners. But if the 18th pick in weekly winners is correct, then this is probably a bit of a value for Derrick Henry. I mean, because the thing is, what are we counting on for those spike weeks? Probably just like a 3-touchdown game, right? And so, like, Sam Laporta's there. I've taken Sam Laporta as early as here, but it's starting with 2 receivers. I like the value on Travis Kelce, so I might push that off and try to just try to get Kelce. Pittman's been falling. I don't mind him at ADP. I do want to lock up in, potential elite receiver, I guess. So we'll go ahead and take Michael Pittman, and then I do want to add some more Anthony Richardson to my bag. So if he's there at 58 or 63, we're going to consider him. I think I'm going to take one of these tight ends, though, if they're available. And like, elite tight ends overall are kind of undervalued, but it feels really bad to take one of these guys like in the 3rd round, and then Mark Andrews is sitting there at 58, or George Kittle is sitting there at pick 82. Like, it's just incorrect. And those guys at those ADPs feel better than, like, I'd rather have George Kittle at even pick 63 with another elite receiver than I would have Travis Kelce and, I don't know, Christian Watson, or Jaden Reed's usually not there at 63 anymore. So both of the elite receivers got taken. I've seen someone get Zay Flowers, Lamar, and Mark Andrews. I think it was closer to, I don't know, it wasn't from the 10 spot, but it was a similar situation. Like, I could go Trey McBride for that week 17 correlation. Like, it feels kind of weird because Kelce and Laporta went right before him. But we're going to go for that. And then that kind of opens up another potential stack with Kyler, another quarterback I think is probably has a pretty good chance to finish top 5 this season. Say Flowers' price has been going up, and I'm not out on him, but it seems kind of aggressive, especially when Mark Andrews is going at pick 51. And just, I don't know, for what Mark Andrews is, I feel like he's going to be more valuable to a team versus the other tight ends than Zay Flowers will be versus the other receivers in the range. So I'm basically just, like, I'm taking Zay Flowers past ADP, but if I'm making a Baltimore stack, I don't know if I have any Lamar and Zay Flowers stacks. And it's kind of hard. Like, you can do it at the 3-4 turn if you can guarantee yourself, or, pick 11 right there. But most of the time I'm just taking Mark Andrews. It just seems like such a screaming value at 51. Got Kev L in the chat. Luka Doncic. What's he doing? He's got 20 points, 8 of 11 shooting. Mavericks are up by 20, 2 minutes into the second quarter. I don't know, just things you love to see. Not really sweating as much now. I feel pretty confident in Mavs closing it out. Hopefully I can pull up that team, show it off a little bit before the stream ends. Another one that's weird to me is Josh Jacobs. Like, we've gotten reports, and like, we knew this though, if you dove into the data, that they typically like to split the running back work. Like, Josh Jacobs was never going to be the workhorse in Green Bay. At best, I don't know, 65-35, but just based on the past few years, and like, your backup running back was AJ Dillon, it's still going to be like a 60-40 split. And so I don't think that's reflected as much in my Underdog exposures, but on drafters and other sites, I am very, very, like, I think Marshawn Lloyd is my highest drafted player over on DraftKings through 20 drafts right now. And so that's one of the RB targets I wasn't on a few weeks ago, but lately it seems like I'm just clicking him on every draft, because one of the things with drafting early too is, like, what are the chances of this guy moving up in ADP versus moving down in ADP, and we can just fill our bag later if we think their value drops. Like, I don't see Marshawn Lloyd's value dropping below ADP 143. I'd be shocked if it wasn't higher in 2 months. And so I'm going to get a bunch now. I'm going to be way overweight. And then, if he ends up going at like pick 100 later, pick 110, whatever, I can just cool off and already have my bag filled at a better ADP value. But yeah, Josh Jacobs is falling pretty hard, and I agree. Like, I'd take Isaiah Pacheco over Josh Jacobs. I already was, even before Josh Jacobs' ADP fell. This is another screaming value, I think, in the mid-range for running backs. Isaiah Pacheco. It's like the Chiefs should be the best team in the NFL, right? They have been for a while. You have Patrick Mahomes, best player to ever touch football. And his running back is going in at the end of the fourth round. Just doesn't really make sense to me. Like, weren't we drafting CEH 13th overall when he got drafted as a rookie and he was not good? And we know that Isaiah Pacheco is at least good at football. It still has the potential to improve, and I don't know. I think this is just a little bit too late for him. In terms of like elite quarterbacks, I guess I'm not drafting Jalen Hurts too much. I've paired him up with AJ Brown a bit. Like, I think that's fine, but I'm not that excited to click on him this year. Josh Allen, whenever he falls like past pick 40, very excited to click on him. Lamar Jackson, love taking him, especially when I can pair him with like Mark Andrews. Like, I would take Mark Andrews here every single time, especially if he fell to 54. It seems like a pretty good value. CJ Stroud, if I end up, and I don't think I'm really doing it on purpose, but if I accidentally draft two Houston guys, then I'll take CJ Stroud. Same with the Chicago guys and Caleb Williams. But other than that, I think this is such an overpay compared to the value. Like, I'd rather have Jordan Love, maybe straight up. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but definitely at ADP, I'd rather have Jordan Love than CJ Stroud. And Pat Mahomes, I have no idea what to make of his ADP. It's probably fine. Not a guy that I'm avoiding, not a guy I'm hammering at all. And we missed on Anthony Richardson by one pick. There's no clear values on the board, so I said I was going to get my guy. I said I was going to get my guys, and I already did not do that. But we are going to get my guy in this round, Jaden Reed. I think he's the wide receiver 1 in Green Bay. I'm still pretty high on Christian Watson at his ADP. I think the spike week potential is super powerful for best ball, so I'm drafting a bunch of Christian Watson. But Jaden Reed, I mean, he's a second-year receiver, and don't we love second-year receivers taking that leap? And he's going at pick 58 in a high-power offense with a really good quarterback in Jordan Love. So Jaden Reed feels like a value. Love that they changed Marquise Brown's name to Hollywood Brown. Haven't been drafting him much, but I've been clicking on him lately. It definitely feels better than clicking on Xavier Worthy. I don't know about this price. He could definitely pay it off, but you're kind of paying for that ceiling potential, and I could easily see him not getting there, but still got to mix him in. Don't want to have zero of him. I think I'm just going to go for George Kittle here. Oh, no, I have Trey McBride. Never mind. We're not going for George Kittle. Going to go for either Rome Odunze or Jordan Addison. This is a combo I'm going to have a lot. Jordan Addison and Jaden Reed. It's just so easy to get when you're at this turn. And they have a pretty good Week 17 game, Minnesota versus Green Bay. And I'm basically always adding on like Marshawn Lloyd or Ty Chandler, if not both, on these kinds of teams. I said I was getting my guys on this one, so we'll take Jordan Addison. But I don't mind mixing up with Rome Odunze just in case. Like, Keenan Allen is older. DJ Moore is still really good, but Rome Odunze does have an opportunity to, do pretty well here. Kyle Pitts, another guy I'm not really excited to click on. I think I've taken him when he's fallen past ADP, but I feel like I'd just rather take George Kittle every time. Something about George Kittle being on every winning team in the last couple of years. I don't know. It's variance because he's going off in like 1 week, but how is this not a screaming value, especially if Ayuk gets moved? They re-signed Juwan Jennings to a healthier contract than I would have expected, and so I don't know what that says about the possibility of moving Ayuk or Deebo Samuel. But if one of them did get moved, obviously George Kittle would probably be in line for a higher target share, which at pick 67, it seems insane. Like we've seen Evan Engram move up to pick 76, Ferguson at 85, and then David Njoku all the way down here at 98. David Njoku feels like a pretty good value, and I've taken Evan Engram past ADP because I don't want to have none. But with Evan Engram, I mean, if you look at even, I think it was just the targets with like Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley, or when Christian Kirk was out, he like his production, went through the roof. But with Christian Kirk on the field, he was like, this would be an overpay for him if Christian Kirk stays healthy. And so I'm not as interested in Evan Engram, but we still have to take him sometimes because of that spike week potential in week 16 and week 17. And so let's see what kind of correlation we got. Take Kyler. Kyler falls 10 picks. We have a pretty good Week 17 game, probably the main one. Puka and Trey McBride, if that game shoots out, hopefully these two guys go off. And then Minnesota, Green Bay, we're probably going to double stack both of these guys with or without their quarterback. If I take Kyler, I probably won't take Jordan Love, but if I miss out on Kyler, I'll probably take Jordan Love. This guy double stacked Cincinnati with Joe Burrow. I mean, with how, like, last year T. Higgins was going around here if you were double stacking. And so I like this a little bit more. I'm still not sure I'm a fan of it. In BBM, it's probably okay. But for when we get into, like, that marathon contest, when it's all regular season scoring, I'm not sure that that's something that has a positive expectation on advance rate. Not advance rate. On, I guess, just winning the contest. Like maybe if you want to double stack Cincinnati, take, what's his name, Jermaine Burton in one of these later rounds rather than two of your first four picks going to the receivers from the same team. Don't hate it, though. I'm not sure about what the data says the last couple of years on doing that with two players before round 5. But again, T. Higgins is cheaper than last year, and Joe Burrow is cheaper than last year, too, so we can get away with it. Jamison Williams, a guy I have not clicked on at all. And we did not get Kyler. Jordan Love goes at pick 91. We're going to take him with our next pick. And we see Evan Engram fall past ADP. If I'd needed a tight end, I'd be okay taking him here. I haven't been taking Ramondre that much. But for this team, I'm actually going to go with Jonathan Brooks. And his ADP has come up a bit. I didn't realize he was already above ADP 90. Like last time I think I drafted, he was probably 98 or 100, but we're going to go ahead and take a shot on him here, especially with that Week 16 correlation with Arizona. Chuba Hubbard was fine when he was starting, but Jonathan Brooks sounds like he's going to be ready for training camp, even if, it takes the first half of the season slow. I don't care about that. I'm drafting him for weeks 15, 16, and 17 if he's a starter. And, if he just gets the work that Chuba Hubbard got towards the end of last season, then this is going to feel pretty good come December. And we're going to go ahead and take Jordan Love as our quarterback. Get my guys. I've been having a hard time clicking on these guys. Like, I like them individually. Curtis Samuel, Tyler Lockett, Mike Williams, Rashid Shaheed. Dubes is fine, but I'd rather click on Jacoby Myers like every single time. And Jerry Jeudy feels like a pretty decent value too. But I don't know, it just feels really important to get one, if not two, of the running backs in this range. Like James Conner seems like a pretty great value. Mostert, who knows? Touchdown variance could change, but he was pretty good last year. If he did half of what he did last year in terms of touchdowns, I think that's probably still a good value at this ADP. I slowed on Zach Moss now that he's going at pick 92. We were able to get him at like pick 110 the first few weeks of this contest, not anymore. And so I'm kind of just mixing it up with these guys. I guess the only one I haven't really been clicking is Zamir White. I guess I question the talent, but if we get more news later in the summer that he's going to be the starter and maybe even be the workhorse in Vegas, then I'll start clicking on him. And I don't see his ADP jumping too much because I think that the possibility or the likelihood of him starting is already baked into this. And so if I miss out on a little ADP value on like some mere white, it's fine. Like, not even considering the players, I think this is a pretty good way to start a team. If you're not going to take an elite tight end, just two receivers, get value on Kyron in the third round, and then three more good receivers. Not in on this guy, but regardless, any receiver here, and then take your quarterback in the, I don't know, is this mid rounds yet? Because I have the cutoff for elite quarterback at Anthony Richardson. Kyler could easily get into that category. But Joe Burrow, I kind of view him similar to Jordan Love. That's probably a weird thing to say, but just they both seem like they have a pretty good floor in that in 1 week, hopefully in the playoffs in 1 week, they're not going to kill us and put up like 11 or 12. I view Joe Burrow as a 20 fantasy point floor guy. And then adding on Tony Pollard, like this is probably the way that I'd like to build most of my teams if I could help it. Adding in an elite tight end in here seems fine too. Brock Bowers is another guy that I don't know if we've touched on much on the stream. I wasn't really taking him much before, but I'm kind of intrigued by the ceiling potential. And we know that I'm in on the Vegas offense. Love Gardner Minshew, love Devontae, love Jacoby Myers. So that would be, I guess, the fear with Jacoby Myers. And I don't see Devontae being affected by Brock Bowers, but Brock Bowers could be good. We saw Sam Laporta come out and be very good. Brock Bowers was he top 10, top 12 pick in the NFL draft. So it could be a value, especially if you're doing something like taking Brock Bowers and then taking Sano, the rookie on Washington, down here. And then my favorite late round tight end is Tucker Kraft. I'm trying to get away from it because what if he's not the starter? I think he's a starter, but what if he's not? But taking shots on those two guys, and then or maybe like a Tyler Conklin towards the end, just kind of get that 6-7 fantasy point floor in there in case these two don't work out. But it seems pretty good to take shots on guys like that. Like we saw how powerful hitting on Sam Laporta late was last year, and I'm not saying Brock Bowers is going to finish as a tight end 1, but it's not 0, right? We see all these quarterbacks no one wants. Rashid Shaheed for the Green Bay correlation. We're going to go ahead and do that. On other sites where Taysom Hill is a tight end, I'd probably go with Brian Robinson right now and then grab Taysom Hill for my playoff correlation. I don't think Taysom Hill's gone off into playoffs, in the fantasy playoffs, in the last couple of seasons, but it's possible. I think he's a pretty good value on the other sites where he's a tight end. Over here, Taysom Hill is a quarterback, and I think his value is precisely 0. Taking snaps as fullback, running back. It's like if he had a tight end, it'd be a great value, but a quarterback, it just doesn't make a difference. Justin Herbert feels like a pretty good value at QB2, and like I'm so out on Lad McConkey, but it's pretty easy to backstack him with. Oh, maybe he's already gone. Josh Palmer, DJ Shark, the other rookie Brendan Rice, who I was taking a bit before. I'm not going to take him anymore because I already took him like 4 times. It's probably enough for the whole contest, unless we get some news out of training camp. So taking Brian Robinson, really in on Brian Robinson. Of the running backs left here, I just think he has the biggest potential to do it. Like Austin Eckler's there, and I'm not completely out on Austin Eckler. I thought I was, but I don't know. Fresh start. more time removed from the injury, and he was really good 2 years ago. And he still had a couple ceiling games last year, putting up almost 20 points. It was 20 in full PPR. I doubt it was in half PPR. But Eckler, I think, is a pretty good shot if you're very weak at running back to take in this range. I mean, it's just a sea of green here. Like, out on Chase Brown, in on Ty J, out on Nick Chubb. I guess I'm in on Austin Eckler. I'm okay with Gus Edwards if everyone else is gone. I came around on Blake Corum, taking him some. This seems like way too high of an ADP. I'd be a lot more comfortable at 140, but if he was at 140, we're going to take him every time, right? So I guess this kind of makes sense. Ezekiel Elliott feels like he could score 10 to 12 touchdowns this season as the Cowboys starting running back now. Tony Pollard was like the worst goal line back in history last season. And so maybe that's something, but Zeke could end up being a pretty good value if he holds on to the starting job. Like, I don't think I've taken Rico Dowdle a single time, but it seems fine. Zeke is old. Rico Dowdle will the starting role if something happens to Zeke. Like Zach Charbonnet, like these second round running backs. Oh, I thought my stream froze. Mentioned I love Marshawn Lloyd. Probably going to try and get him in this draft. Jerome Ford, amazing. Ty Chandler, love him. Kendre Miller seems good because Alvin Kamara is not a good runner anymore. But if Alvin Kamara catches 10 passes a game, that doesn't really matter. Kendre Miller's, how's he going to get on the field, right? Yeah, we'll get some more of these running backs later. It's weird, though, like these guys all have such a similar kind of correlation we have here. So, see if we can add another Week 17 game to our stacks. I think Jaden Daniels is a guy that Chris and I haven't really talked about much on stream, but it's another guy I want to add to my portfolio more of. I don't know. Terry, like when you have Terry McLaurin, that's the time it makes sense. I don't mind taking him naked and then backstacking with Sino. It seems great. Jahan Dotson, I mean, if he falls past ADP, you need a wide receiver. That seems fine too. But Jaden Daniels, we're drafting for that rushing upside. So don't mind taking him naked at all. Pairing up Brock Purdy with Debo and Christian McCaffrey. Love it. Like, that's great. When Brock Purdy falls past ADP, he didn't reach for his quarterback for his double stack. Just let it happen naturally. It's the best way to do it. Gonna grab Jacoby Myers here if he's available and if he falls 7 more picks. Otherwise, I'm not really clear on who I want. Like Dontavion Wicks, I'm interested because of the spike week potential, but it just feels like such a large overpay to draft him at 124. Like Gabe Davis is on the board. Josh Downs could be 1A, 1B to Michael Pittman. I mean, Jerry Jeudy, whatever, but I don't know. Not feeling too good about Dontavion Wicks. Super in on the other Green Bay receivers. So Marshawn Lloyd goes ADP 143. I'm going to try to push it 1 pick. So like I said, I was out on Nick Chubb. At what point are we taking shots on Nick Chubb? Because he's a pretty decent 0 RB candidate, right? Like we take these backup guys, assuming the starter, not hoping, but in case a starter goes down, one of these guys steps into a role for the end of the season. Is that not exactly the same situation Nick Chubb is in? Like, even if they start him out slow, I expect Jerome Ford to be the main back. in the first part of the season. But if Nick Chubb is back to being Nick Chubb by week 14, 15, 16, 17, like this is probably a pretty good Best Ball Mania pick. For like season-long scoring, I wouldn't be touching him, but in this format, seems pretty close to okay. I'm actually going to go with Gabe Davis here. And then hopefully we can get Marshawn Lloyd on the way back. This is a guy that, I don't know, it still feels weird to click on, even though we know he has that ceiling. But he's a guy I definitely want to add more to my portfolio. Because do you guys remember towards the end of last season, if you were a member of OccupyFantasy.com, in the plugs, we would highlight how many air yards Zay Jones and Calvin Ridley were getting, and it was not converting to actual production. But just the fact that we know that Trevor Lawrence is probably going to air it out, and Gabe Davis is a player capable of scoring 60-yard touchdowns on any week, even two of them. And going at pick 130, like, if he contributes 0 points for 15, even if, let's say he contributes 0 points in the regular season, but he goes off once in the playoffs for like 23 points on Underdog, which is huge. I think he's a great pick. You know, all that matters is the playoff weeks, and Gabe Davis, like, I just think he's a pretty good pick. Like, the Jets are probably going to be a little bit tougher of a game for him, but like Vegas and Tennessee, we're not worried about them. So I am going to go with Marshawn Lloyd here, get my QB, running back, wide receiver stack with Jordan Love. I didn't go back and check the data for last season specifically, but 2 seasons ago, every single combination of quarterback, running back, and wide receiver that didn't get hurt for most of the season had a positive effect on advance rate. It was like, we're talking about multiple percents. So the average advance rate is 16.7%, right? In these contests, like every combo I checked, maybe it was like 19%, 20% advance rate. And so it's just something about good offenses and you're getting more touchdowns is what I'm guessing the reason is. But every situation, this was a good thing for regular season advance rate. And so I got to think it's also a really good thing for like regular season scoring when we get the marathon tomorrow. I'm going to have and I'm doing this in basically, I don't want to say all of my drafts, but a lot of drafts, just because the guys that I want to target for this are pretty easy to get. I am avoiding it a little bit with rushing quarterbacks, but as far as I remember, it still had a positive expectation on advance rate, even if the quarterback was Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson. And that might have something to do with like how cheap, like Gus Edwards was dirt cheap last year, and so obviously a few touchdowns is all it takes, but love this value on Justin Herbert as a second quarterback, even though he doesn't have a Charger on the roster yet. Like, just add DJ Shark at the end, easy game. TJ Hawkinson, another guy Chris and I discussed a bit. I think I was kind of out on him when we talked about it on stream, but Chris got the gears turning, and now I'm thinking more about, like, for these formats, TJ Hawkinson could be great. Like what I was talking about with Brock Bowers or Sano breaking out, you get a good game in the playoffs or 2 good games in the playoffs. Feels pretty good to take TJ Hawkinson, and you already have Njoku. And so I'm not sure if we want to go 3 tight ends when this happens. But I mean, TJ Hawkinson was really good, right? It's one of the highest ceilings at the tight end position. Hopefully he comes back from his injury and he's fine. Mavs are up by 30, close to halftime. Things you love to see. I don't know if I can come around on Ricky Pearsall. It might be a rookie that I just end up with none of, which is kind of scary because, I mean, he's still a seemingly good player, good rookie in a great offense. Jalen Polk, another rookie that I haven't drafted too much, but I think that New England is probably the worst offense in the NFL. But what if they're not? And this is just a screaming value. It's like the only player in the top 100 for New England is Ramondre Stevenson. You can get Jalen Polk, Kendrick Bourne's the other guy I'm clicking on a lot, KJ Osborne I'm taking kind of to mix it up from Kendrick Bourne sometimes. Otherwise, I just take Kendrick Bourne on every team. And that's already kind of a big bet because we're just hoping that he comes back from injury and he's fine. Mentioned Jermaine Burton earlier in the if you want to do a kind of a different double stack with Cincinnati, seems pretty good. So through 12 rounds, got a 1.461. Feels pretty good. I'm going to see which quarterback we want to tack on. Probably tack on Matt Stafford, actually, if he gets to 154. Like our main Week 17 stack is Puka and Trey McBride, right? Like my problem with these kind of quarterbacks, like Matt Stafford, that just don't rush. It's really hard for him to hit the ceiling, but how does he hit the ceiling? He passes 3 touchdowns and 200 yards to just Puka Nacua in Week 16 or 17. So we're just going to hope for that ceiling outcome. Other option is to... No, we're not taking J.J. McCarthy here, actually, because I want 2 different quarterbacks in Week 17, because just in case the game is bad. Or like the game doesn't shoot out or something, and we're stuck with 2 quarterbacks from the same team, from the same low-scoring game. Sorry. There are situations I'm okay with it, though. Like, let's say... I'm trying to think where we're investing 2 very early picks in 2 players from the same Week 17 game. So, like, let's say, like, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, and Josh Allen. You managed to draft all 3 on the same team. And, I mean, you have the double stack with the Jets. Why wouldn't you draft Aaron Rodgers? And Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers are both in the same game, Week 17. And maybe that's a bad example because I don't know that that's a good game because of weather concerns, whatever. But you already have so much invested in that game being a good one that those are the situations I think it's okay to draft 2 quarterbacks from the same Week 17 game. So it's like if Breece Hall or Garrett Wilson or Josh Allen, maybe draft Dalton Kincaid too. Like if they bust, then you're just dead. You have no chance of competing for first place anyway. Don't mind Tyler Algier. We could go with the rookie Ben Sino. I think I'm going to do that. Yeah, let's take shots on the rookie. Shout out to Chris for getting me onto him. I think I'm going to be done at tight end. I think Trey McBride's floor is probably good enough that I'm not getting too much by taking one of these later guys unless, I don't know, we'll see. Maybe if there's no good options, I'll just tack on Tucker Kraft as my last round pick. But I'm okay with this tight end room if this is what I end up with. Been hearing some rumbles about like the Ravens front office hyping up Rashad Bateman, and I don't know. I have clicked on him a couple times because of it. You know, no OBJ, maybe he gets the opportunity, but I don't think this dude was hurt last year, and I don't think he scored 10 points in a single game. So it's risky. I don't know if that ceiling still exists. It's been in the league for a couple of years now, and we haven't really seen it, but and Lamar Jackson's good. Maybe Rashad Bateman finally shows up. Done at quarterback. So 2-4-6-2. Got 4 more picks. I think I'm probably just going to go 2 running backs and 2 receivers. We have Jahmyr Gibbs as my anchor. Hopefully Jonathan Brooks late season. I think Brian Robinson should be good all season, and Marshawn Lloyd hopefully is good by like week 6 or so. We should feel pretty good. There's now back to like the late round running backs. I can't stop clicking Jaleel. I'm in on Bucky Irving because I am not in on Rachaad White, and Bucky Irving seems good at football. And Khalil Herbert, this is the one that I just don't understand why people aren't even taking a risk on him. Like, even if you think he stays in Chicago, and maybe you even think Roshan Johnson is ahead of him in the pecking order if something happens to DeAndre Swift. Khalil Herbert, and again, maybe I'm super biased, but Khalil Herbert was like the key to me advancing week 16 and then doing well in week 17 last year because he had two blow up games in those weeks. But I mean, we know he's good at football. Roshan Johnson didn't do that. I think Roshan's fine too. But I mean, I might just be filling up a bag of a zero if Khalil Herbert doesn't do much this season. Also, the possibility of him being traded. But I just don't like this is the latest guy I think that I will click every single time if I need a running back, and I'm okay with it. I don't know if I've mentioned Malachi Corley, but something about Aaron Rodgers really liking him. Maybe he's Tank Dell. You never know. Maybe Mike Williams isn't him anymore, and Malachi Corley steps into a pretty good role. Don't mind him, especially with that playoff correlation. I might actually go. Oh, well, he got taken, so no decisions there. I was going to say get that Rams correlation for week 16, but it's not that important. Oh, I'm on the clock. Nice. I was talking about I'll take Khalil Herbert basically every time. I'm going to take Bucky Irving, and if Khalil Herbert makes it back, that's going to complete the running back room. If he doesn't, I think Elijah Mitchell is probably a pretty good value past ADP 200 too. Like, Christian McCaffrey hasn't gotten hurt recently, but like he did before, right? And you never know. Is he not? And especially if like who's the other guy on that San Francisco drafted with the weird Garendo? I don't know anything about this guy, but we know that Elijah Mitchell is at least not terrible in the NFL, and so there is, and it has like so it hasn't worked out with him the last two seasons if you drafted him because CMC's been healthy, but like if CMC goes down, are you not going to be thrilled to get Elijah Mitchell in like the 15th round or whatever? So gonna add Demario Douglas here. Could be the wide receiver one in that guy took Elijah Mitchell. Lo-Fi, you in the chat, dude? That was a sharp pick. I think I'm going with Demario Douglas, wide receiver one in New England, possibly, probably. And it's like, with how he did last year, this is a guy who should probably get drafted more, but with him, my only problem with him is I question the ceiling. Like, if everyone else gets hurt and I have Demario Douglas on my roster, I feel like I'm going to get a few points, right? Better than the zero. But in half PPR especially, it's going to be harder for him to hit the ceiling unless he's scoring multiple touchdowns, probably. Two more picks. Going to get one more running back and one more receiver. I guess I can probably mix it up with Roshan if he's there, since I have so much Khalil Herbert. Don't want to be 100% Khalil, 0% Roshan. Maybe like 80-20 or 85-15, something like that. Keaton Mitchell. I've clicked on him a couple times to mix it up. Don't hate it. Other than that, like, we got some news about... Chris sent me something in our chat today. Let me see if I can pull this up. About the backup running back situation on the Jets. Izzy Abanikanda isn't exactly receiving the lion's share of reps with Hall out. It feels like he's working behind Ricky Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis. And I get that week 16 correlation with the Rams, so probably take Braylon Allen on this one. And these takes will change all summer, and I think that they should, like your targets, because otherwise you're just going to end up with bags of the same guys who may or may not perform. But you really want to just spread out your exposures here. And let's see which receiver I want. Don't mind Devontae Walker. Someone on the Giants is going to end up being a value. Could be Darius Slayton. I don't think Jalen Hyatt's dust. And then Wan'Dale Robinson is the other guy. Just, are these guys capable of catching long touchdowns? All right, it's good enough for me to be round 17, round 18 pick in best ball. Jalen Tobert. There's like 5 or 6 teams where the wide receiver 3 goes outside of the top 200. Jalen Tobert is one. The guy on Detroit is another. Khalif Raymond. Probably Tampa Bay too. Jalen McMillan. I don't think that's a bad rookie to take shots on. I was taking shots on Trey Palmer earlier in the summer. Are we in summer yet? Earlier this year. But I'll take shots on the rookie now. Just what if something happens to Mike Evans or Chris Godwin? One of those guys steps into a role. I think Trey Palmer showed that he was not awful, and so wouldn't mind taking shots there. I don't mind taking shots on McMillan. Kendrick Bourne. Love Kendrick Bourne. I think Josh Reynolds, another one. See the wide receiver? Who's the wide receiver 2 in Denver? It's probably, I have no idea. Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims. Could be. What if it's Josh Reynolds? What if these guys are both garbage? Like, we know Marvin Mims isn't that good. Troy Franklin could be good. But Josh Reynolds was pretty okay when he was in Detroit last year. So I took Tucker Kraft. Yeah, I think I'm going to stick with 2 tight ends on this team. End up with 6 running backs and 8 receivers. It's like I had 4 receivers before pick 70. And then Rashid, Gabe Davis, DeMario. I think we want to add 1 more receiver here. Just and like with this, like we don't care about floor anymore. The idea with this last receiver is just who can possibly hit a ceiling in a playoff game, and I think it's Jalen McMillan. Richard in the chat just played around on a best ball, got Gibbs, Hall, Jacobs, and Etienne. You got Gibbs and Breece Hall? Seems really good. Then you added Jacobs and Etienne. I'm hoping you got at least 1 receiver in there, and assuming maybe you got Josh Jacobs in the 5th round. Yeah, I don't hate mixing it up with these early elite, early robust running back teams because no one's doing it. And what if running backs don't get hurt at the rate that they did last year? What if 0 RB guys all suck? You're going to have an advantage, but I still think you want to mix in at least 1, if not 2. Like minimum, I want 2 receivers by the 5th round if I'm doing a different kind of build. You could probably push it to 6, though, if you pick up. Like these guys are probably all fine, especially if it's a guy like Roma Dunze who... what if he's rookie OBJ, right? Ends up being really good as rookie or kind of carries your wide receiver room. Your elite running backs just go off. I love that kind of build for like weekly winners, though. It was surprising how often the running back hit the flex and how uncommon it actually was for, like 4 receivers that you could get on the same team to go off. And so it's a pretty powerful strategy in weekly winners because probably weren't here for the beginning of the show, but I just mentioned that running backs are definitely undervalued in weekly winners. I think they're a little bit, it's making me think we already knew it, but I think they're a little bit undervalued in BBM too. And so certain ones I'm going to try to add more of, at least get an anchor running back builds. And so we can take Jalen McMillan. Don't mind getting the double stack with Bucky Irving. Or we can take Josh Reynolds with Bo Nix. Bo Nix in Denver. I'm not sure. I'm going to go Jalen McMillan, though, since I mentioned him first. Rookie probably has a higher upside than Josh Reynolds. And it's not a bad team. 2-6-8-2, probably my standard build. Maybe take 5 running backs if I had someone a little bit earlier, but pretty happy with this room. Receivers look pretty good. And have an elite tight end with a possible second elite tight end. So pretty happy with this draft. I'll be back tomorrow with Moose. We're on at 5:30 Eastern, I believe. And we'll see whatever he wants to draft. We'll jump into. You guys have any comments about this one, throw it down there. Join the Discord. Let us know what you think. Really appreciate you guys watching. And just in case you haven't signed up for Underdog yet, they will match your first deposit up to $250. Use the promo code OCCUPY2, the number 2. And yeah, just get a few free best ball drafts. Lots of good contests dropping tomorrow, so we'll dive into it then. But really appreciate you guys watching, and see you next time. Thanks.